Myra lived in a small town where nights were quiet, and the stars filled the dark sky like endless lanterns. She often stayed awake longer than most people, sitting by her telescope on the balcony of her old house. The stars gave her comfort. They reminded her of stories her grandfather used to tell about the sky, how it was full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. One night, close to midnight, as Myra adjusted the lens of her telescope, she noticed something strange. It was not a star, nor a planet, nor even a passing satellite. It was a short flicker of light, sharp, precise, and unlike anything she had seen before. At first, she thought it was an error in her equipment, but when she leaned closer, her radio receiver buzzed at the exact same moment. A pulse. It lasted only a second, but it felt intentional. Myra frowned and checked the clock. It was exactly 12 o'clock, midnight. She wrote it down in her notebook, pulse, midnight. The next night, she waited again. As the clock ticked to 12, the same flicker appeared, faint but clear. And once more, her radio hummed, giving off a soft vibration that traveled into her chest. Myra felt her skin prickle, as though the pulse had not only reached her telescope but had also reached her. She could not ignore it. The following day, she met Tomasz, her childhood friend. Tomasz worked with old radios and machines in his garage. He was the kind of person who collected broken devices just to fix them again. Myra trusted him with anything unusual. "Tomasz," she said with excitement, "something is happening at midnight. A signal. Not from here. From the sky." Tomasz raised an eyebrow. "A signal? Are you sure it's not interference?" "I'm sure," Myra replied firmly. "It comes exactly at midnight. Twice already." Intrigued, Tomasz agreed to help. That evening, he brought his equipment, a heavy radio scanner and wires that looked far too old but still worked. They set everything up on the hill outside of town, where the night was silent, and the stars were clearer than ever. At midnight, they both leaned forward. The second hand of Tomasz's watch ticked slowly toward 12. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pulse. It shimmered across the sky, invisible to the naked eye but caught by their devices. The radio scanner shook lightly, and then it went silent, as if muted. Both Myra and Tomasz felt the vibration in their bones. "It's not just sound," Tomasz whispered. "It's something more." Myra nodded. "It feels alive." For a long time, they sat in silence, unsure what to say. The midnight pulse was not random static. It carried a rhythm, like a knock on a door waiting for someone to answer. The next day, word spread in the town. Someone had seen strange lights near the hill. Others claimed they felt an odd pull in their dreams, as if something was calling them at night. Most laughed it off, but a few grew curious. By the third night, a handful of townsfolk joined Myra and Tomasz on the hill. Some brought binoculars, others just blankets to watch the sky. As midnight approached, an unusual stillness spread across the air, as though even the crickets paused. When the pulse came again, stronger than before, everyone felt it. Not loud, not frightening, but undeniable. A pull. A whisper in the night. "What is it?" someone asked softly. Myra could not answer. She only knew that it was not random. Whatever sent the pulse wanted someone to notice. As the group slowly left, Myra and Tomasz stayed behind, staring at the stars long after midnight. "You think it's trying to reach us?" Tomasz finally asked. Myra's heart raced. She had no proof, no clear answer, but deep inside she felt a certainty she could not explain. "Yes," she whispered. "It's waiting for us." And with that thought, the quiet hill suddenly felt less empty. The midnight had changed. Something out there was calling, and Myra knew the nights to come would never be the same again. The town had grown restless after the news of the midnight pulse spread. People whispered about it in the marketplace, in the tea shop, and even in the schoolyard. Some laughed and called it superstition. Others swore they felt the strange vibration at night, even without a telescope or radio. Whatever it was, the signal was no longer Myra's secret. But for Myra and Tomasz, it was more than a rumor. They had heard it with their own ears, felt it in their bones. The sky was speaking, and they knew they could not ignore it. On the fourth night, Myra packed her notebook, a flashlight, and her small telescope, while Tomasz carried his radio scanner and wires. Together, they returned to the hill. This time, more people followed. Families came with lanterns, young children carried blankets, and elders brought chairs to sit on. The quiet hill had turned into a gathering place. As the clock neared midnight, a hush spread across the crowd. Myra adjusted her telescope, her heart racing. Tomasz set the dials on his scanner and nodded at her. The last seconds ticked by. Then the pulse. It rippled through the night, stronger than ever. Myra gasped as the radio gave a soft hum before turning silent again. But this time, something new happened. Above the clouds, a faint glow appeared. At first, it looked like moonlight breaking through mist, but the glow moved, shifting like liquid silver. Shapes flickered long, smooth, and bright as if something enormous was just beyond the sky's curtain. Gasps rose from the crowd. "Do you see that?" whispered an old man. "It's there," said a child, pointing upward with wide eyes. The glow lasted only a few seconds before fading into the darkness. The people murmured, unsettled and curious. Myra pressed her notebook to her chest. She knew what she had seen. It was not a trick of the eye. Someone was up there. When the others began leaving, Myra and Tomasz stayed behind once again. They sat in silence for a long time, listening to the crickets return and the cool breeze rustle through the grass. Finally, Tomasz spoke. "It showed itself. Whatever it is, it wanted us to see." Myra nodded. "It's pulling us closer, step by step. First the pulse. Then the glow." "But why?" Tomasz asked, frowning at the sky. "Why at midnight? Why here, in this small town?" Myra didn't know the answer. But she felt certain the signal was not random. It was a call. A whisper meant to be heard. The next day, townsfolk argued over what they had seen. Some said it was a weather balloon, others swore it was a starship. A few warned people not to go back to the hill, calling it dangerous. But curiosity was stronger than fear. By evening, even more people gathered, carrying food, water, and lanterns. Midnight on the hill had become an event. As Myra climbed the hill again with Tomasz, she noticed the atmosphere had changed. People were no longer laughing or joking. They were quiet, waiting, like a congregation before a ceremony. When midnight came, the pulse returned deep, steady, and powerful. The ground itself seemed to thrum with it. The glow appeared again, brighter now, and the crowd gasped as a shape began to emerge. Not fully, not clearly, but enough to stir every heart on the hill. It was no longer just a shimmer. It was a vessel smooth, curved, and glowing faintly with silver light. The shape stretched across the sky like a giant wing. Suddenly, a soundless voice touched their minds. Not words at first, but feelings, curiosity, patience, and a gentle invitation. Myra's breath caught. She felt the thought press gently into her heart, as if asking, "Will you listen?" She closed her eyes and whispered, "Yes." The glow flickered, almost in response, before slowly fading away again. The vessel had not fully revealed itself, but it had shown enough. Enough to make the crowd tremble between wonder and fear. When the people left the hill that night, some were frightened. Others were thrilled. A few prayed. But all of them knew something real had touched their lives. Back in her room, Myra wrote furiously in her notebook, "The pulse is not sound. It is thought. It is reaching for us. We are not alone. She paused, then added, it chooses midnight because it is the quietest hour. The world is still, and the mind is open. When she set down her pen, she stared at the stars through her window. The pull was stronger now, almost magnetic. She could feel the sky calling her again, waiting for her at the next midnight. And though fear lingered, Myra felt something greater. A strange and powerful attraction, pulling her toward the unknown. The midnight no longer belonged to silence. It belonged to the whisper from the stars. By the seventh night, the hill had turned into a gathering place for nearly the whole town. Some came out of curiosity, some out of fear, and some simply because they did not want to miss what everyone else might see. Lanterns dotted the slope like stars on the ground, and children whispered to each other as they waited for midnight. Myra stood a little apart from the others with Tomasz beside her. She carried her notebook, now half filled with sketches and notes about the pulse. Tomasz adjusted his radio scanner, his hands steady but his face tense. They both knew that tonight might be different. The pull had been growing stronger with every passing night. When the clock struck 12, the hill fell silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. The pulse came. But this time, it was not just a hum. It was a deep vibration that filled the air and settled into their chests. People gasped and held each other's hands. The glow appeared above the clouds again, brighter and sharper than before. Slowly, a silver outline formed, gliding across the sky like a shadow of light. And then it happened. A voice entered their minds. It was not a voice made of sound, but of thought. Clear, calm, and strangely gentle. We see you. Myra's breath caught. She glanced at Tomasz, whose eyes widened. Around them, people looked at each other in shock, some covering their mouths. The voice came again. We ask. Who are you? No one spoke. Fear held most of the crowd silent. Some looked ready to run. Myra's hands shook, but she forced herself to step forward. She took a breath and whispered aloud, we are people. We are from Earth. Her words felt small against the vastness of the sky, but somehow the presence heard her. The glow above flickered, pulsing in rhythm with her voice. We listen. The crowd stirred. A woman muttered a prayer under her breath. A man whispered, it's speaking to her. Children pressed closer to their parents. Tomasz placed a hand on Myra's shoulder. Careful, he murmured, though his own voice trembled. Myra nodded, then spoke again. Why are you calling us? There was a pause. Then the thought returned, softer this time. We seek what was lost. We seek what you carry. Myra frowned. What do we carry? No answer came. Instead, the glow shifted, stretching wider, as if the vessel itself was thinking. Feelings washed through Myra's mind: curiosity, sadness, and a hunger that was not for food, but for something deeper. She felt her throat tighten. The presence was searching for something only humans had. But what could that be? The townsfolk whispered anxiously. Some urged Myra to stop, to be careful. Others wanted her to ask more. The hill had turned into a place of fear and hope woven together. Then, the voice reached everyone again. We have watched many. We find you different. The crowd gasped. Tomasz's grip on Myra's shoulder tightened. Different, he repeated. Myra raised her voice, steady now. Different how? Another pause. Then, you feel. You imagine. You move toward light even in dark. The words filled Myra with a strange warmth. It was not flattery, but an observation honest and searching. She lifted her chin. And what about you? What do you seek in us? The answer came, almost like a sigh. We forgot. We forgot the shape of wonder. We forgot the pull of hope. We see it in you. The vessel's glow dimmed slightly, as if the effort of reaching out was heavy. The pulse softened, fading until only the stars remained. The crowd broke into murmurs. Some were afraid, saying the strangers would take from them. Others were moved, saying the visitors were lonely. But one thing was certain: no one doubted the truth anymore. They were not alone. Myra stood very still, the echo of the voice still in her chest. She felt no fear now, only a sense of responsibility. The visitors had chosen to speak, and they had spoken through her. As the people left the hill in small, quiet groups, Tomasz turned to her. His face was pale, but his eyes burned with determination. "Myra, do you realize what this means?" She nodded. "Yes. They're not here to harm us. They're here because of us. Something about humanity, something we don't even see in ourselves." Tomasz looked up at the stars, then back at her. "Then we need to be careful. If they think we have what they need, we must decide what to show them." Myra smiled faintly. "Not what to show. What to share." That night, as she wrote in her notebook, her hand did not tremble. She wrote, "The visitors do not want our land or our machines. They want something inside us, something they lost. They spoke of wonder. They spoke of hope." She closed the notebook and stared out the window at the midnight sky. The whisper had changed her. It was no longer just a mystery. It was a connection. And she knew this was only the beginning. After the night of the whisper, the hill was no longer just a meeting place. It became a symbol. Some people looked at it with hope, believing the visitors were friends who came to share knowledge. Others looked at it with suspicion, saying no one could trust an unknown voice from the sky. The town split in two. At the bakery, people argued while waiting for bread. At the school, children repeated what their parents said at home: the sky people are kind, or they are dangerous. Even in the small market, traders raised their voices about whether to go to the hill again or to stay away forever. Myra noticed all this as she walked through the streets. Some people greeted her warmly, asking her what the visitors had said. Others avoided her eyes, whispering behind her back that she had invited danger. Myra kept her head high, but inside she felt the weight of the town's division. That evening, Tomasz came to her house carrying his radio equipment. His face was serious. "We need to talk," he said. They sat on the balcony where the telescope stood. The stars were already sharp against the darkening sky. Tomasz leaned forward. "Myra, I've been thinking. They spoke through you. That means, in a way, you're the one they trust. But this also makes you the target for everyone's fear." Myra sighed. "I know. Some people believe I'm helping them, others think I'm putting us in danger. But Tomasz, didn't you feel it too? They weren't lying. They're searching for something real, something they've lost." Tomasz frowned. "Yes, I felt it. But feelings can be tricky. What if they're only showing us what we want to hear?" Myra stayed quiet. She understood his doubt, but her heart told her the visitors were not deceiving them. The whisper had carried sadness and honesty. It had not felt like a trap. That night, fewer people went to the hill. Some had chosen to stay home out of fear. But those who came were eager and curious. They brought gifts of food, flowers, and even small books, hoping the visitors would notice. As midnight arrived, the familiar pulse filled the sky. The silver glow appeared again, brighter and clearer than ever before. The vessel's outline curved gracefully across the stars, almost like a great wing spread above the earth. The whisper touched their minds once more. "We see your fear. We see your wonder." The crowd stirred. A man called out, "If you are friends, show yourselves. Why hide in clouds?" The voice returned calmly. "You are not ready to see us as we are. We do not wish to bring fear. We wait until you are open." Some nodded in understanding. Others muttered angrily. Myra stepped forward. Then speak to us. Teach us. Tell us why you came. There was a long pause. Then the thought filled their minds again. We lost what you still carry. You imagine. You create. You hope. We have forgotten these things. We seek to remember through you. A woman in the crowd shouted, and what will you give us in return? The presence answered gently. We bring no gold, no stone, no weapon. We bring only a question. Will you share what you are? This answer did not satisfy everyone. Some looked disappointed, even angry. They had expected treasure or knowledge of machines. Others looked moved, as if the whisper had touched something deep inside them. The glow slowly faded, leaving only the stars again. When the crowd began to leave, voices rose in argument. Some claimed the visitors were peaceful. Others said they were tricksters. A few warned that sharing with them would bring danger to all humanity. Myra and Tomasz stayed until the hill was quiet. Tomasz shook his head. They're dividing us, Myra. People don't know what to believe. Myra looked at the empty sky. They're not dividing us. We are dividing ourselves. Fear makes us turn against each other. The next days in the town were restless. Groups formed, one that welcomed the visitors and one that wanted nothing to do with them. Myra found herself caught between the two, answering questions, calming arguments, and always returning to her notebook to write what she felt. In her notes she wrote, curiosity and fear walk together. Some hearts open, some hearts close. The visitors wait for us to decide which path we choose. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky orange and red, Myra sat with Tomasz by the river. The water reflected the colors like fire on glass. Tomasz, she said softly, maybe this is the real test. Not what the visitors want, but how we respond. Will we let fear rule us, or will we show them what makes us human? Tomasz was silent for a while. Then he nodded slowly. Maybe you're right. Maybe the question isn't about them at all. Maybe it's about us. The stars began to appear overhead. The night grew still. And once again, Myra felt the pull of the unknown, waiting at midnight. The days after the last meeting were heavy with debate. The town no longer felt peaceful. Every street carried whispers, every shop echoed with arguments. Some people said the visitors were wise beings who needed help. Others warned they were tricksters who would take advantage of human trust. But through all the noise, Myra felt one thing clearly: the visitors had chosen to speak for a reason. They wanted more than to be seen, they wanted to be understood. One evening, Tomasz came running to her house, his face pale and his hands shaking. Myra, he said breathlessly, you need to hear this. He placed his old radio on the table. The static was louder than usual, but beneath it came a faint pattern. Not a hum, not a random noise. A rhythm. It pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and inviting. It's not the usual midnight pulse, Tomasz said. It came earlier, at dusk. And Myra, it was stronger. Almost like it was calling you. Myra's chest tightened. She knew what it meant. The visitors wanted them closer. That night, only a few people went to the hill. Many had grown tired of waiting or too frightened to return. The crowd was smaller, but Myra and Tomasz stood in the same spot as always, their eyes fixed on the sky. When midnight struck, the pulse came again, deep, powerful, and full of strange warmth. The glow broke through the clouds, silver and bright, and this time it did not fade quickly. It grew, stretched, and opened like a great curtain being drawn aside. The vessel appeared fully for the first time. It was vast and smooth, shaped like a flowing river frozen in light. It hovered silently above the hill, glowing softly like the moon. Gasps filled the night. Even Tomasz's hands shook as he whispered, "It's beautiful." Then the whisper came, not only in their minds but in their hearts. "Come closer." The crowd froze. No one moved. Fear held them still. But Myra felt the pull grow stronger, gentle yet firm. She stepped forward. Tomasz reached for her arm, but she looked at him with calm eyes. "We have to go," she said softly. Reluctantly, Tomasz followed. Together, they walked ahead, their steps slow, as if guided by invisible hands. The others watched in silence, their lanterns flickering in the wind. When Myra and Tomasz reached the highest point of the hill, the glow from the vessel fell upon them like silver rain. Their fear melted away, replaced by awe. The whisper returned. "You are open. You are ready. Step within the light." Myra took Tomasz's hand, and together they stood inside the beam. The ground vanished beneath their feet. For a moment, they floated weightlessly, and then they were no longer on the hill. They stood inside the vessel. It was unlike anything Myra had imagined. There were no walls, no floors, only endless space filled with flowing streams of light. The air was soft, alive, and carried a hum like distant music. Shapes moved slowly around them, beings of silver light, tall and graceful, their forms shifting like water. Myra's breath caught. She felt no fear, only wonder. Tomasz, however, clung to her hand tightly, his eyes darting nervously. One of the beings drifted closer. Its form glowed brighter, and its voice entered their minds. "Welcome. You hear us. You feel us. You carry what we lost." Myra asked softly, "What did you lose?" The being paused. Then feelings poured into her, an emptiness, a silence, a coldness without wonder. Images flashed, worlds explored without joy, discoveries made without excitement, journeys taken without meaning. The visitors had once been like humans, full of hope and imagination, but over time, they had forgotten. Their minds had grown sharp but their hearts silent. "We remember only knowledge," the voice said. "We forgot wonder. We forgot the spark of dreaming. We see it in you." Myra's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "You came here because we still carry it." "Yes," the being replied. "We came to feel again. To learn again. To remember what it means to hope." Myra looked around at the glowing streams. They were not machines. They were thoughts, emotions, memories. The vessel itself was alive, powered not by metal or fuel, but by the strength of the mind. She turned to Tomasz. "Do you see? This is what they meant. They don't want our land or our tools. They want to share in what makes us human." Tomasz swallowed hard. "But Myra, can we trust them with it?" The being seemed to hear his doubt. "We cannot take what you do not give. We ask only for your sharing. We offer our memory of stars, of journeys beyond sight. But we need your spark to walk those paths again." Myra placed her hand over her heart. "Then maybe we can learn from each other." The vessel hummed softly, as if in agreement. The light around them pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. After a moment, the beam of silver light lowered them back onto the hill. The townsfolk gasped and rushed toward them, asking questions, desperate for answers. But Myra could only look at the sky, her heart full of wonder. She whispered to Tomasz, "We've seen their secret. And now, everything will change." The night after Myra and Tomasz stepped inside the vessel, the whole town waited for them to speak. Crowds filled the marketplace, neighbors leaned over fences, and strangers came from nearby villages. Everyone wanted to know what they had seen. Myra told them the truth. She spoke of the silver beings, of the glowing streams of light, and of the secret the visitors had shared. She explained that the vessel was alive with memory but empty of wonder, and that the visitors had come to learn from humans what they had forgotten. Some listened with shining eyes, moved by her words. Others frowned, shaking their heads. "It's a trick," one man muttered. "They want to take what belongs to us." Another woman whispered, "Or maybe they are lonely." Maybe they need us as much as we need them. The town was still divided, but one thing was certain: everyone felt the pull of the midnight call more strongly than ever before. That evening, Myra and Tomasz climbed the hill again. The crowd followed, restless and uncertain. As midnight approached, the pulse began, deeper and louder than before. The ground trembled slightly beneath their feet, and the silver glow spread wider across the sky. But something was different. The pulse was not steady. It shook and faltered, breaking into uneven bursts. The glow flickered as though the vessel itself was struggling. People gasped in alarm. Some began to step back down the hill. The whisper entered their minds, but this time it was strained, filled with urgency. Help us! The link is breaking. Myra's heart raced. She turned to Tomasz. What do they mean? Tomasz adjusted his scanner quickly, his eyes narrowing. The pulse, it's unstable. It's like their connection to us is collapsing. The whisper came again, softer now. We cannot hold. We need you. Join together. Trust. The townsfolk murmured in fear. Join together? What does that mean? Someone asked. What do they want from us? Myra stepped forward, her voice rising above the panic. They said their vessel is powered by thought and feeling. They cannot hold the link alone. They need us to focus, to give them our strength. Impossible, a man scoffed. How can feelings power a ship? But Myra shook her head. You felt it before, didn't you? The warmth, the pull in your chest? That was not a machine. That was us. All of us. The pulse wavered again, weaker now, and the glow began to fade. Myra's voice grew urgent. If we do nothing, the link will break. They will be lost. We must try. For a moment, silence hung heavy on the hill. Then Tomasz stepped beside her. She's right. We've all felt it. We must trust, even if we don't fully understand. Slowly, hesitantly, people joined hands. Families, neighbors, strangers, one by one they linked together in a circle beneath the silver sky. Fear still glimmered in their eyes, but hope began to rise. Myra closed her eyes. Think of something bright, she whispered. Think of hope. Think of tomorrow. Think of everything that makes us human. She lowered her head, and soon the hill grew still. The crowd's murmurs faded into silence. The pulse, though weak, continued to beat in the air, and the people matched their hearts to it. Myra felt warmth flood her chest. She thought of her grandfather's stories, of her childhood nights under the stars, of the endless wonder she had always carried in her heart. She thought of laughter, of dreams, of the courage to keep moving forward even when the path was dark. The circle of people began to glow faintly, as if their combined hope created a light of its own. The silver vessel above flickered once, then steadied. The pulse grew stronger, smoother, until it thrummed like a living heartbeat. The whisper filled their minds again, but this time it was full of life. Yes. We feel you. We are whole. A cry of relief rose from the crowd. Children laughed, elders wept, and the people held each other's hands tighter. They had done it. The vessel shone brilliantly, its light cascading down like a river of stars. Myra lifted her face to it, tears shining in her eyes. She whispered, You see? This is what makes us human. We may be afraid, but we still choose hope. The whisper replied, soft and full of gratitude. You remind us. You teach us. You give us back what we lost. For a few moments, the hill was bathed in silver light, as if the stars themselves had descended to touch the earth. Then the glow slowly faded, leaving only the calm night sky. The pulse quieted into silence, but the warmth remained in every heart. Myra opened her eyes and looked around at the people. They no longer argued or doubted. For the first time, they stood as one. Tomash placed a hand on her shoulder and smiled faintly. You led them, Myra. You showed them how. She shook her head. Not me. All of us. Together. Above them, the stars burned brighter than ever, as though the universe itself had been watching and waiting for this moment. The hill was quiet after the silver glow faded, but the people still felt the warmth in their hearts. It was as if something invisible still connected them, like a soft thread that bound them together. Myra stood with Tomash at the top, gazing at the stars. For the first time, the night sky no longer seemed distant. It felt alive, listening, waiting. The crowd slowly began to move back toward the town, whispering in awe. They had been frightened, but now they carried something different inside them. A sense of wonder, a belief that humanity mattered in ways they had never imagined. As the last of the people walked down the hill, Myra and Tomash lingered. The air shimmered faintly, and once again the voice filled their minds, gentle, steady, and calm. You have done what we could not. You held the link together when we were failing. You showed us hope. Myra closed her eyes. We only gave what we already carried inside us. Maybe you just reminded us that it was still there. The voice seemed to smile in her thoughts. Yes. And now we must tell you why we came. The air thickened with silver light once more, forming a column that reached from the ground into the sky. Shapes appeared within the glow, tall, graceful figures of shimmering metal and light. They stood before Myra and Tomash, no longer just voices in the dark. Their forms were clear now, though soft around the edges, as if they were both present and far away. You said you had forgotten something, Tomash whispered. What was it? The figure closest to them tilted its head, as though searching for words. We traveled far across stars. We built machines, we gained knowledge. But in our search for answers, we lost the simple flame that gave us meaning. Wonder. Joy. The courage to believe in something greater than ourselves. When we felt it fading, we sought others who still carried it. That is why we came here. That is why we called you. Myra felt her breath catch. And you found what you were looking for, in us. The figures shone brighter. Yes. Humanity still holds the spark. You dream when the night is dark. You hope when the path is uncertain. That is what we needed to remember. Tomash frowned thoughtfully. But why us? Out of all the stars, why here? The silver beings fell silent for a moment. Then the answer came softly. Because your world sings. Among the endless silence, Earth is alive with voices of courage, laughter, and dreams. That song reached us, and we followed it. Myra felt tears rise in her eyes. She had always believed there was more to life than what people saw each day. And now, hearing this, she felt her heart swell. So what happens now? She asked gently. The figures stepped closer, their light washing over the hill. Now we give you a choice. We can leave, carrying your gift with us, and the stars will hold your song forever. Or, if you wish, one among you may come with us, to see what lies beyond. To walk among the stars and remind us never to forget again. Myra's chest tightened. The offer was like a dream made real. To see the stars up close, to step beyond Earth, it was everything she had ever imagined. Yet she glanced back at the town, where the people were gathering torches and lanterns, laughing together after their fear. If one of us leaves, she whispered, will we ever return? The figures did not answer right away. When they finally spoke, the truth was gentle but clear. The path is one way. To travel with us is to step beyond the life you know. You will not come back as you are now. Myra lowered her head. The weight of the choice pressed heavy on her. She thought of her family, of the fields and rivers she knew, of the quiet mornings she loved. She thought, too, of the stars calling her name every night since childhood. Tomash placed a hand on her shoulder. Whatever you choose, he said softly, it will be the right choice. You already showed us that we are more than we thought we were. Myra looked at him, then at the glowing figures. She felt the pull in her heart, half in the town, half in the stars. Finally, she smiled faintly. I think my place is here. To remind our people of what we carry inside us. If I leave, maybe they will forget too soon. But if I stay, I can help them remember. The silver beings bowed their heads, light rippling like water. A wise choice. You give us hope, and you keep hope alive for your own. That is the strength of humanity. As their light began to fade, one final whisper touched her mind. Remember, child of Earth, the stars will always hear your voice. When you dream, we will dream with you. Then the glow lifted, rising higher and higher, until it vanished into the endless sky. The hill was quiet once more, but the silence was no longer empty. It was full of promise. Myra stood beside Tomasz, watching the last flicker disappear. He smiled gently. You could have gone. She nodded. Yes. But the stars aren't only out there, Tomasz. They're inside us too. Together, they walked back down the hill, carrying the memory of the silver beings and the secret they had shared. The town welcomed them with lanterns and songs, voices echoing into the night. Humanity had faced the unknown and discovered something powerful, that even in the vast universe, their spirit could shine bright enough to be seen. And as Myra lifted her face to the midnight sky, she felt no sadness, only wonder. For she knew that the stars had heard them and would never forget.